To all bartenders, what is the weirdest thing you've experienced behind the bar? We used to have a bit of a drug problem in the bar I worked in back in the 90s. The manager came up with an idea to put Vaseline on the flat surfaces in the toilet cubicles with warnings as to why they were there, which was to obviously stop people snorting it off them. Anyway, fast forward a week and a very angry middle-aged man storms up to the bar and demands to talk to whoever just ruined his 3 lines of coke and that he wanted to make an official complaint. We laughed and asked if we should report it to the police. At which point he left. Woman walks in. Buys a bottle of our most expensive wine, $3K. Sits down with a bowl of peanuts and drinks the whole bottle in one sitting. Pays for it, in cash, and strolls outside like nothing happened. That lady had a bad day. I was working the bar on a weekday. Mostly super slow, but I got good hourly pay and most people who come in tipped. There was a guy who came in. Well dressed. Said shot of Wild Turkey and a Bud Light Platinum. He had a few of those rounds. Then he went to pay and just laid $100 on the counter. I went to get his change and when I turned around he was out the door. I went to get his glass and bottle when I noticed he left a pamphlet and a coin on the table. The paper was for a funeral. It had a picture of the man, his wife and their daughter. They had died in a car accident. The coin he left behind had a V45 inside of a triangle. It said "To thy own self be true" and there was a prayer on the back. I once had an old man come during a very quiet shift. Asked to use the loo. I pointed him in the direction and carried on whatever I was doing. About 30-40 minutes go by and I suddenly remember that happened and I hadn't seen him leave. I hurry to the toilet thinking I've got the scene from Clerks going on. When I arrive, the toilet door is locked and there's no answer from inside. Fearing the worst, I grabbed the toolkit and got the door open. Inside were a pair of shoes and socks on the floor. With a phone on top of the toilet. I freak out and run around the building searching for the guy. My brain is going mental. I eventually have the brainwave of checking CCTV. I find out the guy had ran out to the toilet with no shoes or socks on and out one of the fire escapes. I never did find out why or how he relocked the toilet door. Spun me out for the rest of my shift, to say the least. I had a couple come in one night. They ordered a Miller Lite bottle and a glass of Merlot. They hung out for a bit and left. Next night couple comes and sat down. I said hi. Bottle of Miller Lite and a glass of Merlot. The guy says, "How the hell do you know that?" I said, "It's just what you ordered yesterday." The couple says, "We have never been in here before." I looked closer at a very similar looking, but completely different couple from the night before. But that was their drinks of choice. I've posted this story before, but it's very relevant here. I work in a bar. One afternoon, a middle-aged man and a teen early 20-something couple, a boy and girl whom I assumed were either his kids, or one of them was his kid and the other was his/her, so stopped directly in front of the bar's big front window. The older man and boy go to hug. No big deal. They start making out. The girl doesn't react. Then inches closer. The man then reaches up and starts feeling the girl's bob while he's making out with the boy. The 3 of them are just standing in the street like that, the boy and the man going at it. The girl hanging out getting her bob fondled. Looking kinda bored, until boom. All 3 pull away and act casual as an older woman about the man's age walks up. She greets everyone with a peck on the cheek. Then all 4 of them walk away together. Looking like a happy family. There was one other person in the bar with me. A regular. We had both watched the whole thing in silence. I asked him if he saw what I saw. He said yes. And that was it. We've never talked about it. I was working on my own and the bar was completely empty aside from one semi-regular customer. He was really drunk and decided he wanted to play the piano. We didn't have one. So he went home. Only lived down the road. Got his keyboard and brought it into the bar to play. I ended up staying open late because I felt bad. I was awkwardly offered 6 in the adjacent men's toilets from a trampy looking middle-aged woman. I was 18 at the time. When I politely declined the offer, she proceeded to have a chat with my boss. I didn't even have much time to wonder if she was making a complaint or something before they both left for his office. He came back out acting as if he'd just spent time with a supermodel. I acted dumb and asked who was that. He nonchalantly replied dunno. Oh. Yeah, that guy's wife, and pointed to the man I just poured a drink for. I had a middle-aged man come in and say something along the lines of, I have some kind of car. Do you like men with cars? How old are you? Oh yes, I can see. Women under 25 are so pure and innocent. After 25 they are no good anymore. But you are pure and innocent, right? I would like to just rub my hands all over you. But not enter you. You know, because you're pure. Bouncer kicked him out. Edit. Fixed multiple typos. Yikes. Not weird about customers or co-workers, but the passage of time behind the bar can get strange. Friday night. Full house at 7:30. 6 pints. A tequila sunrise and a scotch rocks. 2 dirty martinis. 2 takeaway lattes. Don't ducking order coffee during happy hour, you monster. 6 pints, a tequila sunrise and a scotch rocks. An Aperol spritz. 6 pints, a tequila sunrise and a scotch rocks. And it's 7:32. Huh. Even the music starts to loop. It's like, I'm dead. This is hell and I'll be pouring 6 pints. A tequila sunrise and a scotch rocks for all eternity. I saw a lot of things tending bars for 10 years. But this was definitely the weirdest. Upscale restaurant. A guy approaching toddlers throughout the dining room and asking them, do you like dinosaurs? After 3 or 4 of these innocent enough encounters, he suddenly jumps onto a table, squats down real low, puts on his T-Rex arms and starts screeching like a Jurassic Park velociraptor. He's craning his neck back and forth, jumping from table to chair to next table, stalking the kids and screeching at them. Takes a good 5 minutes before his party is able to corral him and get the duck out of there. I worked at a divey sports bar for years and saw 10 kinds of gross and terrible behavior, but the things that stands out was a woman I went to school with years and years ago came in one night and got pretty drunk. We were trying to close and she hadn't left, so I asked her what her plan was to get home, and she broke down and started going on and on about how she knew I hated her because of the peer review comments I had made on a presentation she did in our capstone class in college. I hadn't seen or talked to this woman in 7+ years and we had all graduated and gotten jobs etc. I remember her presentation because it included a graphic video that was completely off topic and unnecessary, so I imagine I brought that up in my review, but I truly had not thought about it or her until she brought it up. The bouncers had to drag her out. Working in a high volume nightclub and on an X-bar. We were furthest away from the main service area, so we coveted our tools and supplies because we would have to brave massive crowd if something went missing. We had 2 wells but only 1 Boston shaker tin between us. Don't ask me why, but that's just how we operated for years. One night a drunk trick with that look in her eyes had her hand hovering near the shaker on the bar mat and our tip jar. I knew she had sticky fingers and she inevitably fulfilled the low expectations I had for her and grabbed the tin and tried to walk off with it. I lunged over the bar and tried to grab it back, as someone was screaming 430 shaken lemon drops in my ear. I'll never forget her face. She went full Gollum and contorted herself to steal our precious shaker. The security saw my distress and were closing in on her across the busy room as I was screaming to give me back my sacred tin. Just as they were about to grab her, she looked me dead in the eyes, vomited into the tin, then threw the contents directly into my face and handed it back to me. I was so busy I basically had to wipe myself off, throw my hair up and continue working. We still only have 1 tin. I've seen a guy go from 0 to 100 in less than half an hour. He kept asking for straw 80%. After I already gave him 2. I refused giving him more, seeing the state he was in. My co-bartenders however didn't know. So he ended up doing 5 or 6 shots with 80% alcohol in under half an hour. That's equivalent to 10-12 shots of vodka, alongside whatever else he was drinking. Luckily a friend of his caught on and helped me feed the guy shots of water as if they were normal shots. He was asking for more. Next hour or so went fine and the guy was wobbling on the dance floor. All of a sudden after that his legs gave up. And his friends had to permanently support him. He ended up throwing up in the hall and outside. We almost called an ambulance. But luckily one of his friends was sober enough and took him to his own room. Our bar is pretty small and a part of the building I live in. So most of the times it's regulars. And there's never really anything spectacular or weird. This was a pretty intense night with a lot of wasted foreigners though. I used to work at this large bar that was in a gorgeous train station in a busy city. I had a woman come in. Long grey hair. Dark velvet robe with tassels and a staff like cane stop and ask where the restroom was. As I pointed I looked down. And she had an empty cement bucket filled with rats. They were all trying to get out of the bucket and jumping around and such. I went and got security to hysterically tell them about the rat lady wizard. In the bar there was this massive window that opened out into the train hall to order drinks from and I could see the entire interaction unfold. Security told her she had to leave, as they aren't service animals and she can't have her ads in the building. After 10 minutes of arguing she clenched her bucket and shuffled out, cursing us and the entire building as she left. I still to this day wished she would have set them all free inside the building just so I could watch the pure pandemonium. Not a bartender and not my idea. Guy next to me ordered something called tequila Bjorn Borg. Bartender asked what it was and the guy tells him to pour a shot of tequila. Give him a lemon wedge and some salt. The guy pours some salt on the bar disc and hacks it into a fine line. He dunks the shot, snorts the salt, throws the lemon into the air and serves it right in the bartender's face. His face was priceless. Edit, just to clarify. Bjorn Borg was a coke addict and a renowned tennis player. The salt represent the addiction and the wedge serve his tennis career. Hence, tequila Bjorn Borg. It's genius really. Not a bartender but I did work as a glass collector and saw a couple having sex on the dance floor. Lying down and fully going for it. Could you break down the correlation between being a glass collector and being on dance floors please? I worked in a club and would collect the glasses that people had left on the tables when they'd finished their drinks. The couple were on the dance floor and decided that dancing wasn't doing it for them. Weird thing happened to me last week. I'm a new bartender. Just been working a couple of months. Boss comes up to me to tell me I've been doing a great job. He's gotten a lot of positive feedback. But he's wondering if they'd do more business with only girls behind the bar. So I got let go. I ran a pub a few years ago and a guy came in for a drink, presumably on his way to the doctors or something, with a urine sample in his hand and put it on the bar while he drank. Gross. After I refused to serve a guy he tried to reach over the bar and take the knife I was using to cut the lemons with. Presumably to either use it on me or help me cut the lemons. Duck nose. I tended bar at an expensive restaurant where we would frequently have 1-2 hour waits for a table and the bar would be packed. This woman decides to start blowing the dude she is with at the bar. No shame at all. 1987. Soho, NY. First day on the job and in walks John Gotti and two of his thugs. One of his thugs says, "Give me 3 of your best cognacs." Before I could pour them he left $200 on the bar and the 3 of them walked to the back of the restaurant and ordered 3 Pellegrino waters from the waitress. I was young, scared and inexperienced so I did nothing. The drinks sat on the bar with the $200 as I contemplated the $160 tip. After a long 15 minutes they got up, came back over to the bar and lifted one the $100 bills before they left, leaving a $60 tip for drinks untouched. When the senior bartender came in for the night shift I explained to her what had happened and she explained to me that I did it all wrong. I should have carried over the drinks made change and they would have told me to keep it. While that seems obvious now, what was not obvious was what she said after that. They were never interested in the drinks, but securing themselves some private time in a restaurant they knew was not bugged so they could order a hit, a common practice known to her. So I left with $60 blood money and treated the lunch wait staff to drinks at another bar. Finally, a topic where I have a story for. First of all, English is not my first language, so don't be too harsh. It was around Christmas time, and we had a Christmas market in town. The problem is when there is a Christmas market in our town, there is a lot of counterfeit money in circulation. I had a shift at my bar when this dude ordered a beer and gave me 100 euros. We won't accept such big bills, so he gave me 50. We had to control every 50 euro bill with a pen to check if it's counterfeit. Well, the first time in my life the color from the pen changed and I just stared at the bill. I then asked my co-worker, this looks odd, doesn't it? Yeah, she was not sure, so we asked our boss. She looked at the bill and asked who gave us the money. I pointed at the dude, and he looks really scared. He got up and ran out of the bar. A few days later he was cashed at another bar. He tried the same thing and the police got involved. Cleaning up after a busy night. Go in to clean the women's bathroom and there's a girl sitting in the corner with her hands on her head. Her eyes were completely bugged out and she was breathing pretty heavily. I asked her what was wrong and she just said, I don't feel well. Based on her symptoms, her location, and a faint amount of residue on the countertop, I was pretty much certain this girl had just done way too much coke and was now freaking the duck out. I honestly don't have that much experience with the drug, and I was afraid that something could happen to her. So I called the fire department down the street and told them there was a girl at the bar that may have overdosed on something. They sent over their ambulance and checked her out. She finally confessed to them that she had been doing coke. Luckily, they said she would be fine, but they still wanted to take her to the hospital because her symptoms were pretty intense and not improving. Luckily everything ended up okay. Girl was fine, but it did kind of freak me out. Finally, I get to comment. As a server bartender, I've seen some pretty fun stuff. I have had on multiple occasions been offered to bang some dude's wife girlfriend. I have seen people puke under tables then try and continue eating drinking with their feet and puke. For some reason people like to show each other nude pictures at bars, so I have seen a lot of people or people's so's naked. I once had a dude try and fight me over goat cheese. Last night actually I had a lady just lean over my bar and demand a kiss. I'm in my mid-20s and she was easily old enough to be my mom. Also, people think it's okay to say some really dirty and inappropriate things to service workers. This industry will burn you out, but damn it if you don't get to see some fun stuff. I mean, technically not behind the bar, but we did catch an older couple having sex in the toilets one night whilst locking up. I'm talking like 60s or 70s. Not cool. To be honest, the weirdest thing is just that you're much sexier to women. I'm a man, and that every other social situation is basically disappointing or much harder to chat up girls. I wouldn't intentionally hit on customers, but women just either see you as safe, non-threatening, or simply hotter. And I don't just mean flirting to get free drinks, by the way. I mean actually hitting on you when they see you when you're not working, etc. It's bizarre. Friday night. Bus packed. The drain in the floor out of nowhere starts gushing black liquid. We were up to our shins in black water for most of our shift. It was disgusting.